Rosy and Fizz, Rosy and Fizz, playing together, whatever the weather. Two best friends and the fun never ends. So come on in and play with Rosy and Fizz.
Hello, Rosy. Hello, Fizz. Ready to play? What's inside your toy box today?
Hello, I'm Lucy, and this is Rosy. Hello, Rosy. Let's put Rosy here. And this is Fizz. Hello, Fizz. And Rosy and Fizz have been very busy today playing with their toys, and inside their toy box are lots of clues for today's story. Shall we have a look? There's a captain's cap, oars to row a boat. 1, 2, and a treasure map. Rosy and Fizz are going on a treasure hunt, and we're going too. So are you ready? Let's switch to story time. And we switch to story time by making a big story clock. Can you make a big story clock with me? After 3, 1, 2, 3, a big story clock with seconds, minutes and hours. And pretend your body is the big hand and put your little hand like this and join in with me.
Tick tock, it's the story clock. It must be time for a story. Tick tock, it's the story clock. Are you ready for a story? Stretch up high, stretch down low. Wriggle your fingers, wiggle your toes. Tick tock, it's the story clock. Hands up, who's ready for a story?
Today's story is called Rosy and Fizz and the Treasure Map. Rosy had made a treasure map for Fizz, a map with a big X that marked where the treasure was hidden. And this was a very special treasure hunt because it was a treasure hunt in the dark when the sun had come down, the moon had gone up, and the sky was full of twinkling stars.
Where shall I start? Asked Fizz. With treasure hunt clue number 1, said Rosy. Look up high in the sky.
Suddenly there was a roar from above, a dragon's roar, and the stars in the night sky started to join up like dots, an enormous dot-to-dot picture in the sky. Rosy, Fizz, we need our story telescopes. We're looking for a dot-to-dot dragon with a head, snake-like body and swish, swash, tail. Are you ready? After 3, look with me. 1, 2, 3. Rosy, Fizz, can you see the dragon? There it is. And it wasn't just a dragon in the night sky. There was a clickety, crab. Are you ready, Fizz? Clickety-clack, clickety-clack, clickety-clickety-clack. And a horse with wings. Are you ready, Rosy? Clippity-clop, clippity-clop, clippity-clippity-clop. And a grizzly bear. But it was the dragon that held treasure hunt clue number 2.
From the twinkling stars to the deep blue sea, you're looking for the world's biggest animal. What can it be?
And I'll give you 3 more clues. Its heart is the size of a small car. Broom, broom, beep, beep. Its call is louder than a jet engine. Whoosh! And it has a big blue tail. Can you guess what it is? Yes, that's right. It's the blue whale. Splash!
Hello, pleased to meet you. How do you do? I have clue number 3 to read to you. X marks the spot in Mermaid's Cove where the treasure lies deep below. But beware the sea monster sleeping there, guarding the treasure in Mermaid's lair.
A mermaid's lair? Rosy and Fizz haven't been to where the mermaids live. Fizz, we need to put on your captain's cap. It's time to row to Mermaid's Cove. So let's see if the cap fits. And yes, it does. And Rosy, there's an oar for you. And Fizz, you hold on to this one. Rosy, let me help you with yours. And you can join in at home. Are you ready? After 3. 1, 2, 3. Heave ho, row and row, over the bumpy seas we go. Heave ho, row and row, over the bumpy seas we go. Splash to Mermaid's Cove.
Hello, Rosy. Hello, Fizz. There's the X that marks the spot. But shh, the sleeping sea monster. 1, 2, 3. Grab the treasure box, Fizz.
Uh-oh, there was a yawn. Oh, and a stretch. And the sleeping sea monster opened one eye. And the sleeping sea monster opened the other eye. Quickly, Rosy, Fizz, let's swim away. Shh. And just as the sea monster was about to crunch, Rosy and Fizz were carried out of the sea by the blue whale, and the dot-to-dot dragon swooped down and carried Rosy and Fizz to dry land. Hooray! And now it was time to open the treasure box. And inside the treasure box there wasn't diamonds or jewels or gold. There was a Rosy and Fizz storybook, so they would always remember their story adventures and tell their friends all about it. It's nearly time for Rosy and Fizz to go. But just before we do, let's stick the captain's cap, the oars and the treasure map inside the storybook. And why don't you join us next time for another Rosy and Fizz story adventure? I wonder what toys we'll find inside their toy box. See you then. Bye! Right, are you ready? So let's find a page and let's put the O in first. So let's start here. Hello, my name is Lucy and this is Rosy. Hello, Rosy. Let's put Rosy here. And this is Fizz. Hello, Fizz. And Rosy and Fizz have been very busy today playing with their toys, and inside their toy box are lots of clues for today's story. Shall we have a look? There's a kite, whoosh, some leaves, crunchy leaves, and a sweeping brush. Rosy and Fizz are sweeping up and we're going to help them. So are you ready? Let's switch to story time. And we switch to story time by making a big story clock. Can you make a big story clock with me? After 3, 1, 2, 3, a big story clock with seconds, minutes and hours. and pretend your body is the big hand and put your little hand like this and join in with me.
Tick tock, it's the story clock. It must be time for a story. Tick tock, it's the story clock. Are you ready for a story? Stretch up high, stretch down low. Wriggle your fingers, wiggle your toes. Tick tock, it's the story clock. Hands up, who's ready for a story?
It was a windy day and the garden path was full of leaves. So many leaves that the wheels of Fizz's aeroplane kept getting stuck.
Let's sweep up, said Rosy. That's a good idea, said Fizz. You can sweep up and I'll put the leaves into a big pile. We can sing the sweeping song too.
Are you ready?
Sweep the leaves across the floor, up and down and sweep once more. Brush them, scoop them, make a heap. Are you ready? Sweep, sweep, sweep.
And as Rosy swept, Fizz put the leaves into a big pile. And what a big pile it was! The trouble was, the big pile of leaves started to talk. It said, "Oh yes, I shall be very happy here." And then, choo!
And all the leaves blew up into the air. Underneath was Hedgehog. "Hello, Rosy. Hello, Fizz," said Hedgehog, wiping his nose. "These leaves are the perfect place for me to go to sleep." "Hello, Hedgehog, it's you," said Fizz. "Don't go to sleep yet. There's work to do."
Suddenly there was a gust of wind, whoosh, and the leaves whirled and swirled in the air. And it wasn't just the leaves in the air. "Look at that big bird," said Fizz, "that's landed in our tree."
Rosy, Fizz and Hedgehog took a closer look. "It doesn't sing or squawk like a bird," said Rosy. "And look at this long piece of ribbon," said Fizz. "That's not a bird," said Hedgehog. "That's a kite. Look up in the sky." With that, more kites flew by, kites in the shape of trains, boats and dinosaurs.
"Oh dear," said Fizz, "but this kite is stuck in our tree. Let's try and pull it. After 3, 1, 2, 3, pull!" But the trouble was, the kite was stuck. "I know," thought Rosy. "There's a ladder at the bottom of our garden. We could climb up and reach the kite." "That's a good idea," said Fizz. So Rosy, Fizz and Hedgehog went to fetch the ladder. Fizz and Hedgehog held the ladder tightly as Rosy climbed up. But the trouble was, the ladder wibbled and wobbled in the wind.
"Come down, Rosy," said Fizz. "That ladder looks a bit too wibbly-wobbly to me." The kite was still stuck. "Let's ask Owl," said Fizz. "Owl will help."
As Owl swooped down, the wind whisked the kite to the top of the tallest tree. "Uh-oh," said Fizz, "leave this to me." And Fizz put on his flying goggles. Are you ready? After 3, 1, 2, 3, flying goggles on. "Rosy, am I clear for takeoff?" Rosy swept away the last of the leaves from the garden path. "Clear," said Rosy. 1, 2, 3, whoosh!
Fizz twisted and turned in the air, and with a loop-the-loop, Fizz grabbed the string of the kite. "Well done, Fizz," said Rosy. And Rosy and Hedgehog clapped and cheered.
Rosy and Fizz flew the kite all day. And when the moon came up, Hedgehog snuggled under the leaves and went to sleep. "Good night, Hedgehog," said Rosy and Fizz. And that was the story of Rosy and Fizz Sweep Up. It's nearly time for Rosy and Fizz to go, but just before we do, there's just time to stick the kite, the leaves and the sweeping brush inside the Rosy and Fizz storybook, so Rosy and Fizz will always remember their adventure and they can tell their friends all about it. Thank you for joining us, and why don't you join us next time for another story? I wonder what toys we'll find inside the toy box. We'll see you then. Bye! Should we stick in the kite first? So let's find a new page, and let's stick in the kite. Hello, my name is Lucy and this is Rosy. Hello, Rosy. Let's put Rosy here. And this is Fizz. Hello, Fizz. And Rosy and Fizz have been very busy today playing with their toys, and inside their toy box are lots of clues for today's story. Shall we have a look? There's a washing tub, a soap box, and a peg. It's Rosy and Fizz's washing day and we're going to help them. So are you ready? Let's switch to story time. And we switch to story time by making a big story clock. Can you make a big story clock with me? After 3, 1, 2, 3, a big story clock with seconds, minutes and hours. And pretend your body is the big hand and put your little hand like this and join in with me.
Tick tock, it's the story clock. It must be time for a story. Tick tock, it's the story clock. Are you ready for a story? Stretch up high, stretch down low. Wriggle your fingers, wiggle your toes. Tick tock, it's the story clock. Hands up, who's ready for a story?
Rosy and Fizz were jumping in puddles. Small puddles that went splish. Bigger puddles that went splosh. And then Fizz jumped in an enormous puddle that went splash.
Fizz's trousers were covered in mud. Thick, squelchy mud. We shall have to wash them, said Fizz. That sounds fun, said Rosy, and they went to fetch the washing tub.
Rosy filled the tub with water. 1 bucket, 2 buckets, 3 buckets, 4 buckets, 5 buckets, until it was right to the top. Fizz poured in the soap and they mixed it around. Soon the tub was full of suds. That's a lot of suds to wash 1 pair of trousers, said Fizz. Do we have anything else to wash? Oh yes, said Rosy. We have lots of things.
Rosy found a pair of socks, a handkerchief and an old scarf to wash. Fizz found 1 sock. He couldn't find the other one, so Fizz decided to wash the sail from his sailboat. Don't forget your muddy trousers, said Rosy. Fizz had to find another pair of trousers to wear. The only trousers Fizz could find were in his fancy dress box, so he put those on instead. And now everything was ready for washing day. Splish, splash, splosh, give your clothes a wash, scrub them until they're clean. Rinse them, spin them, hang them on the line. When the sun comes out, they'll be dry in no time.
Soon the tub was full of suds and the bubbles floated up into the sky. Rosy and Fizz forgot about the washing and played bubble pop. Rosy popped 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bubbles and Fizz popped 6. Pop! Mouse wondered where all of the noise was coming from. And with the game of bubble pop and Fizz wearing his fancy dress trousers, Mouse thought there must be a party. "There's not a party," said Rosy. "It's our washing day, and you can help us if you like." "Oh, yes, please," said Mouse. Rosy fetched the pegs. It was time to hang the washing on the line.
There was a pair of rosy socks, an old scarf, a handkerchief, one sock from Fizz, a pair of muddy trousers, and... Oh dear! Bother, said Fizz. We've run out of pegs. I know, I'll hang my sail on the branch of a tree. Uh-oh! But the wind whirled and swirled and the sail flew into the sky. Catch it! Shouted Fizz. It splashed into the duck pond. Quack! But the wind whooshed it away. It landed on top of Mouse's house, but the wind whooshed it away, and now the sail was nowhere to be seen.
Rosy and Fizz searched and searched and searched. They searched until the sun had gone down and the moon had come up. Where could the sail be? Just as they arrived back in the garden, there was a hoot. It was Owl. "Hello, Rosy. Hello, Fizz." "Fizz, I think this belongs to you," said Owl. "It was Fizz's sail." "How did you know it was mine?" asked Fizz. "Because," said Owl, "it had your name written on it." "Thank you, Owl," said Fizz. What a busy washing day. That night, when all of the washing things were cleared away, Fizz put the sail on his boat and it flapped in the wind. Well done, Rosy, and well done, Fizz, for washing all of your clothes, and now Fizz's trousers were nice and clean. And that was the story of Rosy and Fizz's washing day. It's nearly time for Rosy and Fizz to go, but just before we do, let's stick the soapbox and the peg inside the Rosy and Fizz storybook, so they'll always remember their washing day adventure and tell their friends all about it. Thank you for joining us, and why don't you join us next time for another Rosy and Fizz story? I wonder what toys we'll find inside their toy box. We'll see you then. Bye! Right, should we stick in the peg? Let's find a page. Hello, my name is Lucy, and this is Rosy. Hello, Rosy. Let's put Rosy here. And this is Fizz. Hello, Fizz. And Rosy and Fizz have been very busy today playing with their toys, and inside their toy box are lots of clues for today's story. Shall we have a look? There's some hoops, a yellow hoop, a red hoop and a purple hoop, a feather and a very tall hat. A very tall hat with a pink flower. Rosy and Fizz are putting on a show and we're going to help them. So are you ready? Let's switch to story time. And we switch to story time by making a big story clock. Can you make a big story clock with me? After 3, 1, 2, 3, a big story clock with seconds, minutes and hours. And pretend your body is the big hand and put your little hand like this and join in with me.
Tick tock, it's the story clock. It must be time for a story. Tick tock, it's the story clock. Are you ready for a story? Stretch up high, stretch down low. Wriggle your fingers, wiggle your toes. Tick tock, it's the story clock. Hands up, who's ready for a story?
Rosy and Fizz were playing by the garden wall. It was a very high wall. They couldn't see over it, but they always heard lots of noises coming from the other side. They heard cars that beeped, beep beep, and people that chattered, and sirens that were very noisy. Cover your ears, Fizz.
Nino, 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 Nino.
But this was a very special day because Rosy and Fizz heard music playing. I wonder where that music is coming from, said Fizz. And then Rosy and Fizz saw something quite extraordinary. From above the garden wall, they saw a very tall hat. A very tall hat with coloured dots and a pink flower. I wonder whose hat that is, asked Rosy. And then the very tall person wearing the very tall hat started to throw hoops in the air all at the same time.
And people started clapping and cheering. Then the very tall person, wearing the very tall hat, started to spin plates on sticks in the air, all at the same time. And the clapping and cheering grew louder and louder and louder. Hooray! Shouted Rosy and Fizz. Then the very tall person, wearing the very tall hat, started to throw balls in the air, all at the same time. And the clapping and cheering grew louder and louder and louder.
I have hoops, said Rosy. Let's put on a show. That's a good idea, said Fizz. Choo, 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 choo. And now, said Fizz. Wait for us, interrupted Caterpillar.
We went to see the show too. And Caterpillar, Hedgehog and Owl sat down on the rug.
Are we ready? Asked Rosy. Ready, said everyone. Do, 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 do. Welcome to the show, shouted Fizz.
Rosy started spinning the hoops around, going faster and faster and faster, and flung them in the air. Catch them, Rosy, shouted Fizz. 1, 2, and bump! Ouch! Ta-da! My go, said Caterpillar. And now for the great tightrope walk. Look how high Caterpillar is, said Rosy, and Caterpillar wriggled all the way along the string. Wow, cried Fizz, and everyone clapped.
Now it was Hedgehog's turn, and Hedgehog found a feather on the ground. And now for the disappearing feather, said Hedgehog.
First, Hedgehog balanced the feather on his nose. Now you see it, now you don't. And Hedgehog curled up into the smallest ball Rosy and Fizz had ever seen. Hooray! Shouted Rosy and Fizz, and everyone clapped.
Next, it was Owl's turn. Rosy, do you have any ribbon I can borrow? Asked Owl. Rosy looked in her bits and bobs box. Oh, yes, I do, said Rosy. I have some green ribbon and some orange ribbon. Thank you, said Owl.
Holding the ribbons, Owl swooped into the air and then twisted and turned, dancing in the sky. Everyone clapped and cheered. Fizz was the last to go, and we'll finish with a song. You've seen the show, it's time to go. Jump up high and crouch down low, with hoops and feathers and ribbons up high. Thank you for watching, now say goodbye.
And as Rosy and Fizz looked up at the high wall, the tall man wearing the very tall hat had disappeared, and everything was quiet again. And that was the story of Rosy and Fizz put on a show. It's nearly time for Rosy and Fizz to go, but just before we do, let's stick the feathers and the hoops inside the Rosy and Fizz storybook, so they'll always remember their adventure and tell their friends all about it. Thank you for joining us, and why don't you join us next time? I wonder what toys we'll find inside Rosy and Fizz's toy box. We'll see you then. Bye! Right then, shall we stick them in? Let's find a new page. Here you go. And let's stick in the hoops first. Let's go like that. Bye!